Hello, good evening. Very welcome to another session of Soul Smart. As we all decided that we will continue with the same topic, Drishti, soul conscious seeing. I'm sure everyone was enlightened and was inspired to come into the practice and ready to share your experiences. I was just looking at this Sunday's Avyakta Murli and I found something so beautiful and I thought I should read this. This Murli is from 7th March 2005, which we will be studying on the coming Sunday. One of the passages says, a pure and clean attitude, pure and clean vision. So Baba is describing what it means. In Hindi, it is Pavitra Shubha Vritti. Shubha also means auspicious, clean, auspicious vision and pure vision. When you look at one another, what do you look at? Do you look at the face or at the sparkling soul in the center of the forehead? One child said that when he has to speak to others or when he has to do something, he has to do that whilst looking at the face, and that the vision goes towards that person's eyes. However, sometimes on seeing the face, your attitude changes a little. This is what Babdada is saying. Babdada says, together with the eyes, there is also the forehead. So, can you not speak to the soul while looking at the center of the forehead? Now, Babdada is sitting in front of you. So, can you tell whether he is looking at your eyes or at your forehead? They are both together, the eyes and the forehead. So, look at the face, but look at the sparkling star in the center of the forehead on the face. You have to speak while looking at the soul. The soul is speaking to the soul. The soul is looking at the soul. Your attitude will then always remain pure. And along with that, the other benefit is that as is your attitude, so is the atmosphere that is created. And there was one more very powerful line that I had picked up from the Sunday's Sakar Murli, 5th May. And Baba said, the yogis among you children can silence others with their drishti. This is a power. So it is such a blessing that we are practicing. Sister Gayatri is with us and Baba is also with us. So we are really sustained very, very beautifully. I was inspired to put it into practice and just wanted to share briefly. As you may have experienced, it was quite slippery to have the soul conscious vision to someone you already know, especially the family members or someone you see on and off regularly. But it was easier when you don't know someone. Like if you see someone in the street or in the store at the cashier, it was much easier. I mean, not that it was remembered all the time, but whenever there was that thought was, like beforehand, there was a attention that, okay, I'm going to the store, whoever I see, I will have that drishti. I'll see them as souls. But that didn't work as well with especially the family members. But then, when I read this Murli, I realize the issue is I'm not looking at the forehead, and eye is looking at the eye. So maybe some hint, some very big tip that I will take from this Murli. And Sister Gayatri also had mentioned this, but somehow it didn't click to me. But I will take it from this Murli. And also, as one more thing I could share is, I called it a remote vision, remote drishti. So if I think of someone comes in the mind, I I thought, instead of seeing them as who they are, with their role as body, let me see them as souls. And the point that Sister Gayatri had shared, 3 points: I, the soul; Baba, God, the soul; and the brother soul. So the way I practiced was, I flew to Paramdham and immersed that soul there. While doing that, uh, this soul was taking Baba's drishti, and Baba was giving drishti to both the souls, the brother soul and this soul, and then same drishti was shared with the brother soul. So some, that uh, I the I thought that was very beneficial, um, to just to see them as brother souls, and not go into the past and what happened, and this is what they speak, or this is how they are. It all merged, and the soul, that the pure soul, brother soul, loving soul, elevator soul, that remained with in the subconscious or with me. So that was a few things that I practiced, and looking forward to Gayatri Ben's beautiful sharings today. And then all of you also share your practices, your experiences, and if you have any questions with the practice, anything that you may not have understood, any clarifications, reflections. Um, so we will have another beautiful session today. Before that, we will go into the reflection so that the soul is ready to grasp the deep secrets of Drishti. So I'm going to share the video now.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. And you must have enjoyed that reflection, even though you were seeing it again and reflecting on it again for the second week. Thought it was so profound. Just the images and the words coming together, and even observing how my own drishti was deepening as I was, going into the experience. Today, I want to take you through how it is that Baba sees drishti. When Baba uses this word drishti, what is it that Baba is really asking of us? And of course, before coming into these sessions, I tried to connect what I'm going to be saying to you to what Baba is saying, because this is the purpose of these sessions. It is to open up our souls to a deeper understanding of what these words mean to us in a real sense, in a sense of our own personal development, so that when we are developing and growing, it's on the basis of what Baba is saying, which we understand to be the truth, which we experience to be the truth. So I'm going to share with you from what what intrigued me as I was doing the research on Drishti Part 2. Last week, I spoke about soul conscious seeing, and I spoke about the third eye that Baba has opened up for us with knowledge. I spoke about being Trikaldarshis. When the third eye opens, it's able to see the landscape of what was in the past, what is in the present, and what is in the future. And I call that time. The soul is always seeing within a context of time. And I also spoke to you about space, in which the soul is also seeing through a dimension of space. So the soul sees differently when it is in the incorporeal world. The soul sees differently when it is in the subtle dimension. And the soul sees differently when it is looking through these two eyes in the corporeal world. But where the actual transformation occurs is in the corporeal world, even though the soul may transcend and be in the subtle world or be in the incorporeal world, the actual transformation occurs within the corporeal world. But the basis of the transformation is the power of love. So seeing then becomes a transformative act when the soul is connected to God's love. Well, today, what I want to talk to you about is how does soul conscious seeing become an active, transformative act? It becomes a robust, transformative act. It becomes a dynamic, transformative act. Because this is ultimately what Drishti is. Drishti is, in the final analysis, the way through which people will be transformed, souls will be transformed. And so when Baba talks about divine Drishti, Divya Drishti, and he's telling us about Drishti, he's actually preparing us to serve souls through our Drishti. Because he says the way that souls will catch power from God ultimately is through your Drishti. So it is only when we have the practice of catching powers through our Drishti that we will be able to give others the experience through Drishti. So I have to learn the art. Drishti is learning the art of how to catch power from God, how the third eye is catching the power from God, and then through my physical eyes to give others the experience of that power. That is ultimately what Drishti is. And so as we progress in our own self-development and in the way we're serving people, we won't be able to serve that much through words, because the circumstances will not make it possible for us to be speaking to people. So when we no longer can use words and we can't interact with people, such as, for instance, when it was COVID and Zoom was not that much as popular as it is today, it was only beginning. Then we had to stay social distancing, and we had to stay in our own little cubicles, in our own little homes. But still, Baba was telling us, serve through the mind. So we still had the third eye, was still able to serve through the power of thought and the power of pure feelings. That was an example of which circumstances didn't make it possible for us to be serving through words. So he says that when that time will come again, but in, of course, bigger circumstances and situations, Drishti is the art of serving souls. And the power of God is Shakti. So how do I recognize that power? Is when the soul is receiving that power, that Shakti, in the form of peace, in the form of love, in the form of happiness, and in the form of bliss. Now, when the soul, if the soul were to accumulate these powers from God's Shakti, from taking it directly from the source, God, then those powers will radiate from the third eye through the physical eyes as the three eyes, the third eye through the physical eyes, would be looking at this world, would be looking at souls in the world. And the drishti will be coming from the attainments of the powers of peace, the powers of love, the power of happiness, and the power of bliss. And Baba identified these 4 specific powers as attainments that would be accumulated in the soul and would then be radiating from my eyes, and other souls will be picking it up through their eyes. And then he said that, but how will others attain powers from your drishti? And this is how they will do it. He's saying that when someone comes in front of you in person, face to face, or when someone thinks of you, that is at the level of mind to mind, telepathy, they will take vibrations from your divinity, the divinity that is coming through your drishti, and through your divine eyes. So the divinity that comes from the form of the soul, that is radiating through the divine, through these eyes. The divinity, remember, is connected to peace, love, happiness, and bliss or joy. So that will be radiating when they come in front of you or they're thinking of you. Your eyes, your third eye will activate, and it would start radiating these vibrations from those 4 powers or from Baba's Shakti. He says that either way, if they're in front of you face to face, or if they're thinking of you, their focus will be on your eyes. He says, actually, they will focus on 2 areas on your face to take powers from you. They will focus on your eyes, your physical eyes, to feel the divinity, and they will focus on your forehead. And you heard a little bit from Kiran when she was talking about that. But these are the 2 areas that people will focus on to get attainments from you. And so he was saying that we have to prepare ourselves in order to serve in this way, because people will be focusing on our eyes for their attainment from God. And so the first thing in the preparation to serve people if they come in front of you or if they're thinking of you is silence. Silence is that space within us when we become introverted. The third eye rests in that space. And he says the experience of being in silence, and of course, Baba talks about silence as a sweet spot, a sacred spot in the soul that the third eye rests in to be nurtured. There's a silence in the incorporeal world, which is total peace and home, in which everything is in its essence form. And so he says that the impact of the silence in the corporeal world and the impact of the silence in the incorporeal world, when the meeting of these two silence occur, the impact is felt by others through your eyes. And he says, this is the silence that we have to learn. And what we're learning is the language of drishti that comes from that silence. So it is as though this silence that is radiated from our eyes when we are in our sweet spot internally, when we say center the self and let the soul go into silence, an inner silence, and then the soul reaches up into the incorporeal world, the home, and it touches that silence. There is the vibrations emerge from that silence, and it is as if it is speaking its own language. So in the Murli that Baba spoke last week, or earlier this week actually, when Baba says, let your silence, with your silence, or with your drishti, you will silence others. So this language of silence that will emerge from our drishti will assure others of the peace, of the love, of the bliss that will be coming from our eyes. And that is the language. So the language will be seen in these powers that Baba says that we have to attain. And it's the power of peace, the power of love, the power of happiness, and the power of joy. So that's the language that will silence them from their anxiety, their doubts, and all the different forms of uncertainties and insecurities that the souls will be going through. And they would then feel these attainments coming from us. The other aspect Baba is saying to prepare ourselves to serve from this drishti is to accumulate these powers, the powers of peace, love, happiness, and bliss. So he says, how do you accumulate these four powers? And he says, the way you accumulate it is by taking drishti from the Father. So he says, because you may have the power of silence within you. You may even think of the home as the place of silence. But if you don't bring the Father's drishti, that power of silence won't have the impact. It will remain as a silence that serves with limitations. But once you bring the Father's drishti, once you have the experience of silence through the Father's drishti, then that silence, as you're looking into Baba's eyes, fills the soul with the powers. So I thought that was very significant, and we may want to expand on this during the conversation. The other element of preparing the soul is that he says that as you are accumulating these powers through the Father's drishti, you must have some sort of evidence that you are accumulating these powers. And he says the evidence that you are accumulating the powers is that you will have a deep sense of intoxication it will be as though as soon as you emerge that peace in your silence, you will feel the sparkle of that peace, or you will feel the sparkle of that love within yourself. And as you are experiencing the sparkle of these powers within you, because you're accumulating them, you're cultivating them, they're growing within you, you will radiate that constantly in a natural sense. It's not that you would say, oh, I have to give drishti to this one now, or I have to give drishti here, or I have to give drishti there. No, it will be a constant flow as you're filling yourself with these powers. And the evidence is it will naturally be coming from you, both at the level of your awareness, you will be consciously aware of it, and your eyes will constantly be radiating it. And he says this is progressive. It's not that you have to reach a certain fullness to feel it, but the little drops that you're practicing daily, you will feel that it's giving you a sense of that deep spiritual intoxication. Yes, I'm getting there one drop at a time. The other thing is, he says, you must always do it within, practice this kind of drishti within the reality of a world you're living in. So I call it keeping it real. Baba is saying, keep it real. Don't do it trying to escape the world. Drishti is not about escaping, but drishti is about facing. You're facing something, but at a subtle level, you're transforming it. So he says that the problems in the world will come and they will go. Sometimes it will be more intense, sometimes less intense, but they will be there because it is the transitional period of the confluence age. So you're seeing more of the problems of the Iron Age as you're moving toward the Golden Age. And you're not seeing the Golden Age in the form of the corporeal world, but you're seeing it more inside of you as you're accumulating these powers. So he says that the problems, if you keep another evidence that you are accumulating these powers, is that you will see the problems as external to you. And you will see the powers as your spiritual property that is inherently yours. So you will see this kind of separation. I'm not the problems are outside. What is true for me, what the third eye is seeing, is that what is inherently mine, and the third eye is focused on that. So he says the problems will be seen as illusions. Okay, they are here, they're the sum total of everyone's karmic accounts. They're appearing in front of me, but see them as Maya, see them as illusions. But see the powers within you as permanent. And if you were to see what is inherent in you as permanent, you will then become stable and unshakable as you're seeing the problems, because you're not seeing the problems inside of you, you're seeing them outside. And what you're seeing inside of you is that which is permanently yours, which is your inherent spiritual powers. So he says that's another evidence to spiritual intoxication, but also you begin to see what is permanent and inherent within you and what is temporary and passing in the form of problems outside of you. And you will keep this kind of space in between. He then went on to say that Baba always tells us that as is your drishti, so will be the shrishti. As is your vision, so will be the world. But he says that the world around us is gradually changing. One, it is changing and it's going down. You're seeing the breaking down of the systems, but it's equally changing in an upward spiral. And he says that it is changing through our drishti. So whatever you have accumulated within you, it is on the basis of that that you are changing this world. Your drishti is changing the world based on the accumulation of these powers within you. So he says drishti is something that could either deceive you. So if you're looking at a world that is downward spiraling, that is breaking down, that drishti will deceive you. But if you have a drishti of connected to your permanent inherent powers, and you're looking at the world in Baba's remembrance, then you're able to change that world through your drishti. So I thought he made it very clear. The awareness and attitude we have will deceive us through our drishti, our vision, or the awareness and attitude we have can purify the impure through our drishti. So then he says we have to ask ourselves, to what extent is my drishti changing before I even look? Ask yourself, what is it inside of me that I have accumulated, and how is that changing my drishti? And then he says, do you know how to change your drishti? And then he went into a little bit of what I shared last week, in which he was saying, to change your drishti, it means that you have to be in the awareness of the soul, because this is soul conscious drishti I was talking about. He's not talking about a drishti based on the physical eyes and on your acquired sanskaras, but he's talking about a soul conscious drishti. And he says soul conscious drishti is a drishti that changes anything, changes a person, changes the element, changes everything that it's looking at, and it's transforming it into what? It's transforming it into something divine and into something spiritual, because we're looking with the eye of divinity and we're looking from a spiritual perspective. And then he went even further and asked a question, do you know how to make your drishti divine and alokik? And then he says that, and this is what I shared last week too, that whenever you look at someone, you should only see the form of the soul. Just look at that. Don't look at anything else. And as you heard Kiran says, it's easier to do this with the teller or the person checking you out at the supermarket. It's easy to do it with someone in the subway, but it's very difficult to do it with someone you're close to. So, but he's saying that this is how you can make your drishti divine and alokik. And it's a practice he tells us every day in the Murli. When you look at someone, what are you looking at? What do you see? Do you see the form of the soul? And then he further says, when you're interacting with someone, constantly be aware of what that person is taking from your drishti. So I thought it was interesting. I never asked myself that question, that when I'm looking at someone, what are they taking from my drishti? Because he says, the moment you ask that question, you will become consciously aware of what's in your awareness and what's in your attitude, because you know that is being conveyed through your drishti. So he says that when you ask that question too, you must ask this: am I seeing the person with a double vision? That is, am I seeing that person with a double lens? Am I seeing the image of the person as a person without a body, and I'm only looking at the soul, that soul being a child of God, that soul being my brother? And at the same time, the double lens, am I seeing that person as a body as well? And the body with all its limitations that the body carries. He says that most of us practicing drishti, we have got this double vision. And the double vision is sometimes I see the soul, but sometimes the body less soul, but sometimes I see the body. And this double vision will indicate to me, if that's how I'm looking at others, as that my drishti is not divine and alokik. It is a mixed drishti. It's a drishti that's mixed with body consciousness and soul consciousness. And he said the reason that this mixture happens, even though I'm working on my awareness to be soul conscious, that there's impurities, uncleanliness in my attitude. And again, Kiran talked about that. She said Sunday Murli Baba will be talking about cleaning the attitude. I haven't read that Murli yet. But in this particular sense of drishti, he was saying to reform your drishti and make it the accurate vision, which is alokik and divine. You have to reform your attitude. And so we have to go not just what the person is taking from my drishti, that is the first question, but then even further, what is it in my attitude that others will see through my drishti? What is it in my attitude that others will see through my drishti? Because he says, if your attitude is that of body consciousness, or if it has a mixture of soul consciousness and body consciousness, then he says that any form of bias that exists in the attitude will prevent, it will become like a subtle obstacle that will prevent the other from having that experience of divinity and being a lokik through my drishti. It will be like a veil, and they will be looking at me, expecting something, but the veil of that unconscious bias will stop the purity of divinity and spirituality to come through the eyes. So he says divine drishti means that I need to reform that attitude. Because the reason for my drishti not changing in relation to souls or relation to situations or relation to whatever I'm facing is that because my attitude is not clean. So I need to clean out the unconscious and conscious biases from my attitude to allow the divinity and spirituality to come from my drishti. And then some other things he said that I thought would be very important for you to hear is that the divine and alokik drishti is like having 20/20 vision, that perfect vision. And he calls it the accurate soul conscious seeing. In other words, you're seeing the accurate form. And the accurate form is the soul, not the body. And when you're able to see that accurate form of the soul, then you can understand that your drishti is divine and alokik. And when your drishti is aligned, he's saying when your drishti is divine and alokik, you will never be deceived by the person or by the situation. And then finally, I will end with this one because it is a very profound one. He says that the way to practice drishti, and you would never expect this, I have never, ever thought of this. He says, when the way to practice your drishti is not immediately to try it on another person, which we tend to do, But he says the way to practice your drishti is when listening to the Murli. Because he said the majority of us, when we listen to Baba's Murli, we miss out on Baba's drishti. And he says there are two expressions that are connected to the Murlis. One is when you listen to the Murli, it takes you beyond through one glance. So you're looking at Baba, you're kind of visualizing it's Baba speaking this Murli to you, and you're looking, taking drishti from Baba, and he takes you beyond in just that one glance. And that is why we do yoga before we listen to the Murli, but we have to be taking drishti from Baba. So Baba is taking us beyond with his glance. The second, he said, is when you listen to the Murli, you experience the Murli as if it is the magic. The Murli has magic. So there are two things the Murli does. It takes you beyond with just one glance, and that is Baba's drishti. And the second, Baba's words have got that magic to it. So he says is that, well, how do you experience blessings and rights from the Murli? It is through Baba's drishti. So when you listen to the Murli, you feel he said the majority of you feel that you are receiving power through Baba's words. So he says very few of you have developed the practice of experiencing the attainment of powers as you're listening to the Murli through Baba's drishti. And he says it's only when you experience power through Baba's drishti that you're actually imbibing the Murli. He says, because if you only listen to the words, you do not experience as much power from the words. So then he said that drishti is very important. The opening of the third eye, which is the foundation to divine drishti, is very important when you are listening to the Murli. So he says, the more you stabilize yourself in the consciousness of being a soul, the more you are able to catch the language of the Avyak Drishti from Baba. So Avyak Drishti means I'm listening to the Murli, but I'm feeling Baba's drishti on me, and I'm taking drishti from Baba as I'm listening to his words. And he says, then you will be able to catch the powers of those words that are contained in the words of the Murli through this drishti. And so he says, if you can practice this, and experience catching the powers from Baba's drishti, you will then be able to give others the experience of Baba's words in his Murli through your divine drishti. Now, I feel that that was so profound for me, that this is what he means by drishti. Have I ever thought about drishti as this? Or do I just see drishti as my eye meeting someone else's eye, an exchange that occurs? That is not drishti. So drishti for him is a transformative act that requires all these different elements. So I'll stop there now because I know this was a heart-to-heart and you want to ask questions. But there's one question that came in, and I'll start with that. Someone asked the question that, and I think after she hears this, she will get the answer. What I just said, but I'll just simply say this. She says when she looks at others, there's a strain on her eyes. When she's giving drishti to someone else, there's a strain on the eye. Now, if you go to a doctor and you say to your eye doctor, there's a strain on my eye, when I'm looking, the doctor may say, well, there's some sort of discomfort there that is causing the strain. And I think that that is why there is a strain on our drishti, because there's a discomfort somewhere in the soul. So the soul, rather than being on the Baba's drishti, being that I am from me, the powers of love and peace and happiness and bliss are radiating from me naturally. The discomfort is maybe I don't know what I have to give to these souls. And so rather than let the beauty of the soul naturally flow out of my eyes, I'm working on peace at that time, or I'm working on love, or I'm working on something that I want the soul to feel from me in that moment. And so it's creating a strain, it's creating a discomfort for me because I'm not able to do it, because I haven't accumulated it. The second is if you stare at someone, it's called, Baba calls it a glimpse. It's a gaze, but it's not a stare. Because if you're staring at someone, the other person would feel discomfort, and you will also feel the discomfort. You will feel a strain on you. Anything that results in a strain is a spiritual discomfort of sorts, which means it's not something natural to you. The third eye is not naturally doing what it should be doing because there are these layers of other things that are interfering in the soul conscious stage that is putting pressure on the person's physical forehead or physical eyes. And so I have to watch for that too. Okay, so let us open now. Over to you. Did you believe Baba said all of that, what I just said to you?
Om Shanti, Sister Gayatri. I watched the reflection 3-4 times, and I have actually wrote down the clauses too. There are 9 of them. And because I wanted to actually know the words, because they're hard to interpret unless you have the really words written down. But what my question is that those words align with the pictures what you're depicting? I couldn't put the two together.
No, I didn't do them. I sent the words, and the way the person creates them is she takes them into her soul, and she kind of lets them sit in her soul. And then the words would emerge with images.
I see.
And she would then choose the images. So it's all experiential. So I can't ask her why you chose those images because I know it's coming from an emergent from how she sees those words.
But I try to correlate with the words, I thought, but I couldn't.
Well, this is the thing about Drishti. If you look at the outside, you will look for correlations. You will look for meaning. You will look for what makes sense based on what you know about the interpretation of those words and how you see nature.
Yes.
But that is not soul conscious. That's not drishti based on soul conscious seeing. Soul conscious seeing is those words are speaking to me, the soul. And the visuals are white noise. They're secondary. So it's intended to take it within you so your third eye could see it within the context, not of the corporeal world, but within the context of your feelings and thoughts, which would be your subtle space within the context of silence, which would be the incorporeal space. How is it speaking to me, and what is it drawing from me? What is it bringing out of me that I'm accumulating?
Right.
And am I connecting my third eye to see how the drishti of Baba on me as I'm taking these words to make meaning inside of me? So that's a drishti. That's called swa-darshan. It's having a glimpse of yourself first, of what is it drawing out of me that is giving me peace and love and joy and strength, so that those could come through my drishti, because it's a transformation first within before I could have drishti as a transformative act when I look at the world outside of me or people outside of me.
Out of those, number 8 or 9, which is the outpouring of God's love, those are easy to kind of accept, you can say, or align with, rather than the others.
Actually, those are the most difficult ones. Because to feel an outpouring of God's love could be an intellectual thing, could be a desire I have, but not necessarily an experience that I'm receiving.
I see.
And so feeling an outpouring of God's love requires me to be clean, doing the things he just said in preparing yourself to serve others through your drishti.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Gayatri. Actually, these are the hidden gems of Baba, like on the topic of Drishti from the Murli. These are all hidden. So thank you. And I have two questions actually. One is how do we do, like this Drishti is always on the physical, like in this corporeal world, right? So if I immerse someone in the subtle region, that is not called Drishti. That is Sakash, or that is also Drishti. So somebody who's not in front of us, and we want to give them the power, the Baba's love through eyes. So can we call it a Drishti?
The thing is, the very first lesson, the very first session, I spoke about instrument consciousness. So instrument consciousness means that on this spiritual path, the moment I said my Baba, I became an instrument of Baba. So it's no longer I and mine. So I can't say I am invoking a person in front of Baba, because then I'm creating karmic account with that person. Yeah, I'm thinking that I can do it. All right, so before we even go into whether it's Sakash or whether it's Drishti, if there is someone that is seeking my help, and Baba used two references, he says that person could come face to face in front of you, or the person could be thinking about you. So you are becoming aware that this person needs some help. So if the person is in front of you, then the physical drishti will be there. Okay, so you're looking at the person. Now, whatever you have accumulated inside of you from Baba's drishti, that is what you will become an instrument to give. But it's still not yours to give. It is still something you have accumulated from your efforts, as he told us in those points that I was sharing, and how to do it. And all you're doing is looking at the person with the 20/20 vision. You're looking at the person as a soul. With these eyes, the person is in front of you, and whatever you have accumulated is naturally flowing out of you. You are not going to sit the person down and say, excuse me, what is this you want from me? Or what is it you have come to Baba for? That is next. That is when you're coming down now a few notches from your divine drishti, from giving the alokik and divine experience to the soul. So you're silencing the soul from the questions the soul had before it came in front of you, or the problems that the soul had before it came in front of you. And you're silencing them from that with your drishti. And you're replacing it with the peace and the love and the joy that you have accumulated within you. And that is what they are receiving from you in that moment. Then after, okay, how can I be of help? Daddy Janki was very good at this. You would go to her with a problem, and she would say, let's go into silence and let's remember Baba. And the problem would be like very urgent. And she would take you into that silence. And when you came out, you forgot you forgot what you wanted to ask her. And then you would say, okay, Daddy, I'll come back. I don't remember exactly what I came to you with. Or if you did remember what you came to her with, you would be ready to receive her answer. And so the problem wasn't the focus of your conversation with her. It is her answer that became the focus. You wanted to hear what she had to say. So the problem was silenced in a way, and she was giving you, and you're receiving it now from her. So that is called the drishti. Sakash is when you know what is happening now between India and Pakistan. Souls on both sides are suffering. Sakash means you give light and might through your pure feelings and good wishes, again, in connection with Baba. So you don't give the Sakash, Baba gives the Sakash. But you are saying, Baba, make me an instrument of your light and might to send it to the people of that region. And you can't distinguish now. Sakash is like the sun. It doesn't just shine on a particular set of souls. It shines on all the souls. So if you're an instrument for Sakash, you can't be serving on the basis of any uncleanliness in your attitude as well. But you're not physically giving them the drishti. It's as though the third eye then becomes the instrument, and Baba is using you as a soul to radiate light and might into the world.
Yeah, that makes it clear, and also the realization in other souls also happen through the drishti. When I'm radiating Baba's energy through the silence,
But it's not an energy. It's not just an energy. It is life. You're breathing life into other souls. Your drishti is giving life to other souls. It's a transformative act that is taking place. So the soul, this is why he's saying, how do you know that you're accumulating peace and love? So you're radiating love. Now you may call it an energy, but I call it a life force. Is that the love is moving into me and my soul is feeling love, not just an energy. It is feeling love. And that is why a child will never say to a parent, I feel your energy. They would say, I feel your love. I feel your care. I feel all of these things. They name it. Energy doesn't have a name. It's general. All right. But because it's relational, you're naming it. You're naming the feeling you're feeling from the other person. And again, Baba is saying that the more you take from him, especially when reading the Murli, and this is what I wanted to ask you all, when you listen to Baba's Murli, do you take power from the words of the Murli, or do you take power from Baba's Drishti?
It was really new for us to know. At least for me, this was something really new, and going to practice this. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely new. Definitely new. And I will practice this as well, sister. Yeah.
So you go beyond the teacher, right? So anyone who's reading that Murli, and that is why we love to have a Baba's picture there, because you're looking into Baba's eyes. And it is this, the voice of the teacher becomes secondary, and all you hearing Baba say those words to you, and you're experiencing those words, not as words, the power of the words, but through his drishti, and that's called imbibing. He is giving you the power to imbibe what you're hearing.
Gayatri Ben, I wanted to share a story when I was doing Gyan. I was sitting there listening to Murli, and I must have been listening in the right way because you said, Colleen, you're the only one in the room. I guess I must have been emanating a light or something. And you were so struck by it. And then you had me conduct meditation at Harmony House about a week later, and I felt so sleepy. So it was a very interesting dynamic. But I thought it was very beautiful because at that time the intellect was very sort of dull. And I couldn't come up with beautiful points the way others in the room could, but I at least felt Baba's energy. Now I'll have to go back into the days of my childhood because now I take the power of the words that Baba says. So I'm gonna focus more on taking the drishti. In regards to what was said about your own family, I actually find it easier to do drishti with my own daughter, but it might be because I've been practicing for a while because I'm pretty keen to make sure I have the awareness that she's not mine, she's Baba's and she's entrusted to me, so I've been saying that for a long time. So I enjoy to see the qualities that come up in that soul, and so there's a dynamic, but it's an everyday adventure because I'm quite aware of my own shortcomings. But I did want to say thank you, Gayatri, for introducing this double vision, because I actually have that. I see it now. I didn't understand what was happening when I do drishti, when I'm in an assessment with a patient. I'm actually, because I feel everything about them. I feel their past, like even past lives. I feel so much. So it feels like an intense moment. But in fact, what you're saying, it actually doesn't have to be in that way, to bring Baba into it. So thank you so much for that clarification.
I really like the analogy of a double vision, because most of us look at souls, at human beings with a double vision. We even look at our world with the double vision, golden and iron ages. We're not even seeing the world just with the vision of the golden age. And that's why he says in these two eyes, one should be the home, one should be heaven. And that's all your eyes are showing to the world. You're not seeing anything of the iron age. You're not having that double vision of iron and golden. I mean, drishti, the more I research it, it's the more I see the depth of it. And we just see it as a glance, as a way of seeing, but we're not seeing it with the depth of what is required for the soul to have that soul conscious seeing.
Om Shanti, Gayatri Ben.
Oh, hello, Prabha.
Baba. I just wanted to share about this homework you had given last week about practicing, giving soul conscious drishti, and the learning was that when you are giving, true drishti, it's very transformative. Whether you're doing it for others or not, something changes within you. And it brings you to a very natural and automatic space of silence and stillness. And the other thing is, you move beyond sound in the space of words become unnecessary, and there is kind of a breakdown of barriers and boundaries. And I'm even scared to speak because I might say something that might be construed as a romantic. I'm filled with this love. I don't have any other word for it. And it also makes me tear up in a nice way. And I have to put the Maryada break on, because we are not practiced in experiencing this abundance, if you will, this soul conscious abundance. And it's very unlimiting, if that's a word. It's an abundance, and it's a fullness. It's the fullness, this drishti thing, to be able to see from a space of knowing who you are and knowing that the other is your brother from the same father is a very powerful state and stage. And to practice that, it's like holding an electric, boat. I hope I'm making sense, but Om Shanti Baba.
That's very beautiful. And also what we should do is to practice drishti before actually giving it. So if I were to do what Baba said to me today in practicing the levels of soul consciousness from awareness to attitude, then the vision will naturally carry that. Because the spiritual trajectory is awareness, attitude, vision, and then action, and then world. So it's smrti, vritti, drishti, shrishti, and then, that's the world. The action, kriti, and then the world. So drishti is seeing into being something that Baba wants me to transform. So when he says, are you seeing accurately? If I'm seeing the being in the body, then whatever it is Baba wants to ignite in that being or awakened in that being will happen. So my drishti is seeing into that person's being what Baba wants that soul to be aware of. So I have to practice it before. And this is why Baba is saying, take drishti from him. Let Baba see into your being what he wants you to be aware of inside of yourself. And then you will be able to show that to another. So we see it into our being first, and then we see it into other people's beings. And it's all with drishti. However I see a being, that is what I'm seeing in myself. So if I doubt someone, I have that doubt inside of me. I doubt myself first. Because I'm seeing it into my own being, and then the eyes are seeing it into somebody else's being. Now, this is why he's saying words limit you from giving someone else an experience. Words limit the experience, but through your eyes, there's no limitations to the experience. And that is why you cannot ever express love with words. We try hard. Love is a feeling that is expressed through my eyes. Peace is a feeling that is experienced through my eyes, and they're powers of God, but they're expressed as pure feelings and elevated thoughts long before they come into action or words. So that's the foundation of drishti. It's something very subtle. It's alokik and divine, as he calls it. So it is, as Prabhupada said, a feeling of abundance. It's a feeling, so you're overflowing. You've accumulated it in such a way that the drishti is just filling my world with it and filling other people's being with whatever is in my soul. So drishti cannot be a camouflage. A drishti cannot be something that I can fool others with. My drishti doesn't lie. My eyes don't lie. Okay, so are we ready now to wrap up? Now, next week, I think I'll ask Kieran to wrap up now and play the traffic control. But next week, we'll be moving into, it's still connected to Drishti, but it is to do specifically with the third eye and the intellect of the third eye, and that is to discern. How do we discern? What is discernment? That will be next week. Now, these things, you are all matured, right? You've been BK studying. Some of you are new, like Boosie is new. But you've all been really wanting to go into the depths of what Baba is asking us to practice. Not so much to know, but to practice. Now practice it. Don't forget about it. Don't forget about the inner landscape that the practice is focusing on. Raj Yoga is about an inner landscape, and the practice is very subtle.
Santi, Sister Gayatri. Thank you very much. It was very, very nice. I think you are all realization and experience. You're trying to put it into the words. It's very rich. And I did practice what you mentioned last time, that when we go to the incorporeal and whatever the feeling we create and then we give drishti from there, that's really, really amazing, and it's make me very light even in a busiest time, and seems like I can help the soul in front of me also, and that helps me myself too. So it's really amazing technique that I learn and I practice, and I really, really enjoying and helping me and help my surrounding too. So really appreciate it. I never even think that we could go to the incorporeal without feeling, and we create the feeling with Baba and then take drishti from there. To me, I think is easiest way I found myself. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Divya. The homework that I'd like to leave you with is one,
Mhm.
listen to Baba's words in the Murli, but take Baba's drishti. That's one homework. Practice that. Go beyond with the glimpse of his drishti, and then listen to the magic that is contained within the words of the Murli. So that's one homework. It's two pieces to the homework. Secondly, stop the double vision. Do not have a double vision when looking at anything or anyone. Stay with the accurate vision. Because these two practices of drishti will help understand discernment.
One thing you said, when we listen the Murli, we take drishti from Baba. Are you talking like from the picture, or are you talking just the soul to Baba?
Well, think about this. When Baba spoke the Sakar Murlis, what happened to the group of people sitting in front of him? They had to take drishti from him as he was speaking the Murli. When we met Avyak Bapdada through Daddy Gulzar's body, and Baba was speaking the Avyak Murli, I never took notes. I was constantly taking drishti from Baba as he was speaking. because I enjoy that drishti. And so the words became secondary to me. And what was important was Baba's drishti. It was as though he was filling me with power as he was speaking the words. So if you had I know you wouldn't have had the experience with Sakar Baba, with Brahma Baba speaking the Murli, but definitely some of you have had that experience with Avyak Bapdada, and that is why those Murlis of Avyak Bapdada are played again. So go on YouTube and play the Murlis of Sakar Baba. Look at the Murlis of, not Sakar Baba, of Avyak Bapdada. And as you're looking at those videos, take drishti from Baba as you're listening to the words. But you're taking his drishti. You're not connected to the words, you're connected to his drishti. And then the words are heard. And I think that practice will help you. Because the problem, why he's saying that, the problem we have is that our intellects are so conditioned to words that we don't see the person and the situation the person is in. We are only hearing the words. And we're not able to understand the needs of the person because we're just connected to the words. You said this and you said that and you said the other, and this is what you mean and that. And our whole world is made up of words. And the human being is no longer seen. And so what Baba is saying, on the path of bhakti, that is exactly what you all did. You got caught up in the scriptures and you forgot about God. You got caught up in the rituals and you got caught up in all these different things and you forgot about God. Now what he's saying, the only way you're going to be able to follow God's Srimat, and the only way you're going to be able to follow the Maryadas, his directions, the code of conduct, the only way you're going to be able to imbibe what he's saying is to keep your eye on him and his eye on you and take the drishti. So I would say practice with the Avyak Murlis on YouTube. Even the drills, you could do the drills on your own, but you just put those drills on and you take drishti from Baba with the drills. It's a completely different experience because you're taking drishti from him and he's lifting you with his drishti and holding you in the experience of the drills. And you feel that you're protected under the canopy of God as you're practicing the drills. So this is what he's saying. So the Murli now, the homework is make the Murli the experience of Baba's drishti too. And then you're going to be impacted by the magic of the Murli. And secondly, don't have a double vision when you're looking at people. Just have the accurate vision of looking at them as souls. And this is a hard one. It's a hard one because we tend to be carried away with people's stories and people's this and people's that and people the other. Well, it says, okay, if you're hearing all, but just stay with them as souls and let your drishti be alokik and divine as you're looking at them. That's the least you can give to your fellow human being as you look at them.
Yes,
Will do.
yeah, I have a quick question. If you can speak a little bit about listening to Baba's words and then taking drishti, but how do I practice Baba's drishti while reading Murli for someone or reading Murli for myself?
You have to do 15 minutes of yoga before you read a Murli.
Mhm.
First of all, you have to read the Murli a couple of times before. And as you're reading it, you are remembering Baba. Baba, you're saying this. What is it am I understanding it accurately? Is this the accurate thing? Am I being just neutral and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with what you're saying? So all of that, you read it a couple of times because you're now the instrument to give it to someone, and you cannot read that Murli based on what you like or don't like in the Murli. Because it's not your words, it's God's words. And every soul hearing it will experience it differently, not the way I experience it. So that is one thing. And then you sit in at least 15 minutes before you read that Murli. Anywhere. You don't have to be on the gadi, but anywhere. Sit 15 minutes in yoga. So you're really clearing the third eye of anything that may come as subtle influences that would be conveyed in the way your tone of voice or your eyes or whatever. And then when you sit on that gadi to read the Murli, you're totally Baba's instrument. You're true to what he's saying. Because his drishti is on you reading that Murli. Baba is observing the way you are conveying what he is saying to your brothers and sisters. And that is why he says, if a teacher does not have remembrance of Baba, do not let her sit on that gadi. And you can't use the Murli as a weapon to get back at students and stuff like that, or to force them to do what they're not doing. That is not what the Murli is meant for. And so this idea that Baba's drishti, one is I'm taking drishti from Baba, but one is Baba's giving me drishti. His eye is on me as I'm reading that Murli.
So beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, it is so clear.
Okay, so now we've really gone over time. So
Yes, yes.
I'm going to hand it over to Kiran. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. I know you can't be with us, Erica, next week, but we'll miss you.
Thank you. I'll miss you too. But I will watch the replay. I will definitely watch the replay.
And I know that Kiran has a job of editing it. So she edits it and she puts it up in the best way she can. I always appreciate her work after these sessions. So Kiran, over to you.
Thank you so much. We are all very, very fortunate, and there is so much that we can take from the session. And Drishti is 24, or whenever we are up, Drishti is there. So you don't need to see when we can practice. We can practice it every second. You must have noted down the homework, and yes, we will all do it. So thank you again, Gayatri Ben. And we'll end with traffic control. As you know, next Friday, the subject is discernment, and glad that how beautifully it is going to continue because Gayatri Ben says it's about extension of third eye, the eye of the intellect. So the Drishti continues. Thank you so much.